Good morning, everybody. It is January 22nd. I am in very cold Florida. It's, I believe, 45 degrees, but in the feel like temperature's 30. So it's a bit nippy. I have no reason to complain because I know parts of the country are really suffering. Having lived up north, I know what it's like and probably couldn't return to it. But for us in Florida, this is highly unusual, and most of us aren't prepared for this type of weather. I'm on here today. I haven't been on for quite a while. Life kind of got in the way. And I mean, we had hurricanes. I changed jobs, which was a struggle, and to a degree still is. Um, then I got COVID. And then I ended up on jury duty, or I ended up in the hospital um, with something pretty serious, which I had no inclination of. Fortunately, didn't cause my demise just yet. Then I was on jury duty. I was trying to wrap up crafts for craft shows, the holidays, etc. So YouTube was not my priority. Um, it is not yet a year since I posted my first video, and but it soon will be. Okay. My intentions initially were to do something fun, something that could be profitable. Okay. Being totally transparent and honest, maybe making money doing something I enjoyed, leaving a legacy, some memories, some thoughts, some stories. I don't know how I feel about that anymore, to be quite frank with you. Some of what I've seen on YouTube, particularly in the last 6 months, I find extremely disturbing. Okay. It has made me totally rethink going on YouTube. I made the mistake initially of going on, commenting, and actually in favor of a very large YouTube creator. I stand behind my initial support, um, but it threw me into an algorithm um, where it made it difficult to do what I really wanted to do. Now, doing crafts or educating or showing things like that is not as simple as sitting in front of a laptop or a camera and just talking. There's editing involved, all kinds of things. And it's a little bit more complicated than doing what I'm doing right now. Okay, so I put it on pause. And I was trying so hard when I did do a commentary to remain as neutral as possible because it's not my place to judge. Okay. But as a human being, we all have a tendency, as we think about things, to come up with an opinion. What I want to share with you before I go into the real meaning behind this video is an experience I had. Um, I don't remember now if it was October. I think it was October. Okay. Where I got called to jury duty. Now, being on a panel was something on my bucket list. Over the course of my lifetime, I had only been called to jury duty 3 times and one federal. Okay, I never had to serve or got called actually on the federal. The three local selection process, I was not selected. And I really thought it would be an experience, and I thought I could do this and enjoy it and do my civic duty. Okay. So when I got picked in October, I did not anticipate actually being selected for jury duty. I went in. It was totally different than in the past. I had to fill out several pages of questionnaires. I was very upfront, very truthful, very open about my background, my history, my work experience, etc., even down to politics on this questionnaire. And they called people in. It was done totally different than I'd experienced. So it was a good process. Once I was sitting in this jury selection um, room, in the courtroom, it pretty soon became apparent that they were narrowing us down, that we were in the finalist stage, I guess you could say. And I was chatting with the gal next to me who also had a desire to be on a jury. And during our breaks and everything, there were a group of us that kind of tended to kibitz. And ironically, four of us ended up on this jury. Now, it became very quick or very obvious to me once we were selected and we started to learn about the case. I could very quickly tell whether it was the plaintiff or the defendant that had really pushed for me. And it was the plaintiff. Okay. I'm not going to go into a lot of details about the case, minimal, but it was a week-long trial. It was a malpractice suit involving the plaintiff was the widow, um, obviously wrongful death. Um, and I will be honest with you. My initial gut was to go with the defendant. Okay. Um, but with that being said, we went through this and I did I did everything I thought I was supposed to do. Unlike my nature, I did not have conversation with others about this case. I did not come home and Google and research. I I was familiar with the practice this doctor belonged to, but I only because of having been in the health field at one point in my life, and I was familiar and knew this practice to be of high regard. And to this day, I would still select that practice for surgery if I needed it. The trial had no bearing on that whatsoever. Anyway, where I'm going with this is as the week went on, there was a lot of camaraderie being built amongst us jurors. And I want to say it was eight to begin with, and then it got narrowed down to six for the final deliberation. I think that's what it was. Midweek, I could see one of the other jurors, and this was somebody that I took to right away, to be quite frank with you, uh, vocalized too many opinions. Now, we were asked not to discuss, not to pre deliberate, not to do anything until all evidence was presented. Okay, come on, folks. You all come home and you're going to start formulating your opinion. And I am an opinionated person. I've said this more than once, and I can be judgmental. And in doing so, I have often found myself wrong, even on YouTube. So I tried very hard to do exactly as instructed. I took copious notes. I thought about it. I prayed on it. And I was hopeful that my other peers in the jury, on the jury, were doing the same. But it became apparent midweek that one person wanted her voice heard, and she would make comments. Now, she didn't totally discuss the case 100%, but she made her opinion known. She took lunch with somebody, and I could tell by their interactions that she was having an influence on this other individual. I guess that's okay. And at one point, midweek, she came in after something was announced and wanted to start discussing. I did speak up and say, wait a minute, I don't think we're supposed to be having conversation about this. And she said, what's the difference if we do it today or we do it on Friday? Well, I'm sorry, to me that was a red flag. And I had become somewhat suspicious of her motives, okay? Again, I don't know. Um, but at the end of the week, on Thursday, all evidence had been given, and we were told to go home. But before we were released for the day, because we would start deliberations the next morning, we were told by the judge to go home, not to come in with a decision. We were to come in and as a group deliberate based on all the evidence. But before we were released, two jurors were told that they had been removed from deliberations as they were alternates. They were thanked for their service and sent on their way. Lo and behold, one of the jurors released was this particular individual that had been extremely vocal during the entire week. And she was pissed. And she came right out and said, I'm pissed. Now, why? Okay. I think she really wanted to be part of the deliberation process. Maybe she felt that um, she needed to be there. I don't know. But her reaction was highly unusual. We go in the next morning. I had nominated a gentleman. We had somebody on the jury that had already served as a jury foreman in the past. But I had, over the course of my observation during the week, found that there was a gentleman that I felt was could be very fair and would be a good jury foreman. So I nominated him. The others agreed. Now the woman that had been a jury foreman was sitting next to me, and she goes, "Well, I've done it before." And I said, "Well, please don't take offense. You've had the experience. I just thought so and so would be a good jury foreman and give him an opportunity. No reflection on you." And that was where I was coming from. Okay. So what he did, and I think this is probably typical, never having sat on a jury, he said, "Well, let's just take a round to see where we're all coming from." I was number three, okay, out of six of us. He was first, she was second, and me, and then three others on the other side of the table. First two were leaning towards the defendant, the doctor in this case. Comes to me, and I said the plaintiff. Go to the other side of the table, it's a doctor, doctor, doctor. Folks, I already knew this. I had sensed it. I was not comfortable with it, but it wasn't going to change my thoughts. So when they realized that, I said, let me be clear. I'm not going to hang this jury. Okay. I think it needs to proceed. But I'm being honest in what the evidence proved to me, or in my opinion. So we went into discussion, and nobody was attacking. But at that particular point, I could only defend what I said or my feelings to a certain degree. And it appeared they all were hung up on one thing, and unfortunately, this was one of the things this juror that was released as an alternate kept talking about. So do I truthfully believe she influenced the rest of the jury? Yes, I do. I can't prove it, but I do think she swayed others' opinions. It was even brought up because we had um, paid experts from both sides. And when I referred to some of this, two of the jurors said, "Oh, I didn't pay any attention to that. They're paid." Well, yes, they are. And anybody with a brain knows they are. But you still have to listen to what that's evidence. And if you're not going to allow that evidence in, you're excluding part of what you need to be listening to. That's the way they chose to make their decision. The long and the short of this, and there is a reason I'm telling this tale. The long and the short of it was, finally, after a little bit, I said, enough. I'm not going to challenge. I'm not going to hang the jury. Um, I'll vote with you, even though that is not what I believe in my heart. So we let the bailiff know, and I mean, that took all of a half hour. And then they're joking because, as the jurists, we were going to have paid lunch brought in. They're all saying, "Oh, Linda, can't you know, keep it going a little longer so we can get our free lunch?" Well, I wasn't going to do that. I mean, I was physically a little bit upset, quite frankly, because I didn't think, not that people were not voting the same way I was, but there was something unsettling about this to me. So we go back in and we all have to say, yes, it's the way I vote. Yes, it's the way I vote. Now we're leaving. It's all said and done. We leave the courthouse and walk to the parking garage, which is approximately 2 blocks away from the physical courthouse. Now, I was having a cigarette, and yes, folks, I still smoke. Not a good habit, would not encourage, but it is my stress reliever. And one of the other jurists, who is a gentleman, I thought we were the same age, okay? And I mean, he said, "Can I bum a cigarette?" And I said, "I thought you were a non smoker. I thought you said you quit smoking." He goes, "Oh, no, I'm a closet smoker." So, anyway, we were walking behind our fellow jurors because they were non smokers to be polite, and he and I were just chatting. So I came out and asked him, "How old are you?" And it turns out, I thought we were the same age. Turns out he was 10 years younger. Okay. Now, I don't profess to look younger than my age, but I guess I have to say he probably looked older than his because I definitely thought we were in the same age bracket. Anyway, as we were walking, we were just having small talk, nothing of any consequence. We were not talking about the trial. And once we arrived at the parking garage, there's no smoking there, so we were finishing our cigarette. And a gentleman came up to us that I recognized, as did he. He had sat at the plaintiff's table. I never saw any conversation. I never saw this man put out notes, anything of that kind. And he was an older gentleman. And as he saw us standing there finishing our cigarette, he thanked us for our service. Now, he was on the losing side. And I thought, well, what a nice, kind thing to say. And we both said, "You're welcome." And he said, I, it's apparent that we were negligent in providing some information that we didn't think was necessary, but would have made probably a big difference. And I asked him, "Do you mind if I ask what is your role or what was your role?" And he said, "I'm a retired physician here for medical advice, and I think we made a mistake in not introducing another evidence." So I said to him, "Well, all I can say is I tried. I did the best I could. And you have my blessing to forward it to the attorney in this case, or even the plaintiff." I don't know what else to say. When he said, "Parent, we should have produced some evidence," we did not. The gentleman I was with, having the cigarette, said, turned to me, face on, and said, "Oh my God, you were right." Folks, this isn't about being right. This is about what my gut said, weighing all the evidence and probably my age. And I had openly said, that's why I asked this gentleman what his age was. I had openly said, as one of my final remarks when we were in the jury room, "Folks, I don't know how else to explain it. It's quite apparent I'm probably one of the, if not the oldest, one of the oldest people on this jury. And maybe it's because I remember when things were different. And we were asked by the judge and both attorneys involved to decide based on what would a reasonable person, okay, those are the key words, a reasonable person expect." And that's what I did. I tried to set aside any preconceived ideas, similarities between myself and the plaintiff, because while there were many similarities, including our age, our religion, sudden loss of a spouse, there were some differences. Income level. And I only know her income or her status financially was because she parked next to me 2 days in a row and I saw the car she drove. Based on evidence provided in the case, I know where she lives, and I have friends that live in that community, and I know the value of the home. So I could definitely see a difference there. And even the way she was handling her husband's demise was different than mine. And I even shared that in the jury room at one time when we were talking, because I was hoping this lawsuit was not an anger issue out of grief. Okay. Anyway, long story short, come home. This troubled me for several days, and I couldn't understand, why is this troubling me? Why is this troubling me? Truthfully, I did the best I could do. It wasn't that others didn't see it the same way I did. Why is this disturbing me? Well, finally, one day I woke up and I thought, oh my Lord, you are troubled as much as you thought you were an absolutely perfect juror. You were not. You're thinking that somebody else tainted the jury pool, another juror, and yet, had I been the perfect juror, I would have advised the judge through the bailiff that there was conversation discussing the case in details when we were specifically told not to. And I did not do that. And I think the reason it was disturbing me was because I was disappointed in myself. Now, I came home and did what probably most people would do. And I was proud of myself. I hadn't done it during the trial, but I did look up information on the plaintiff's attorney. I tried to find information on the doctor's attorney, but it was done through, obviously, an insurance, malpractice insurance. Like, I really couldn't obtain anything. I did some research and I decided, and I even Googled mistrial. Okay. I could have notified the judge, even at that point, notified the plaintiff's attorney of what had gone on. And I'm not giving out enough information that anybody could take this, because I don't want to see that happen. End result was the doctor didn't have a strike, and I really thought he was a scapegoat anyway. He wasn't involved in surgery that caused this man's death. He just happened to be on call. Okay. The financial damages that the plaintiff's attorney was asking for were ludicrous, and I would never have voted or agreed to any place near that sum of money. And she didn't, frankly, appear to need the resources. I also knew that if this were to drag out and be a mistrial, it would continue the process for her, which I think the end of the trial was going to bring closure and she could move forward. So I chose not to do anything. But where I'm coming from and why I bring this tale up is I want to have a conversation about this YouTuber. We all know, if you've seen any of my channels, any of my videos, probably who I'm referring to. And I have no problem, because I'm not slamming him. Okay. I'm not trying to defame. If anything, this is an open conversation to this particular YouTuber to give it some thought as to what he's doing. Okay. He has filed a federal lawsuit against some neighbors. Initially, I was in support of this YouTuber for a long time, even to the degree when he was asking for his subscribers to send $1. If every subscriber sent $1 to help pay for my legal fees, it would not cost me. I debated, folks. I actually debated about sending him $1. And I came to my senses because, first of all, I live on a shoestring. I have to work in order to put food in my mouth. To me, $1 to a YouTuber whose income is probably $1 million or more a year, that dollar to me is worth 100, if not 1,000, in his budget. If he filed a lawsuit That's what you do when you take on a lawsuit, that it's going to cost you money. Or if you have an attorney that's going to take it on a percentage basis, you're going to give up half of what you win. Okay? So I didn't do it. This YouTuber is has taken this too far. And he's accusing other channels, smaller channels, of costing him income, costing him subscribers, and yet I stayed on. I quit subscribing finally. Um, but I've seen his numbers go up. And I've watched these other channels, and I was very skeptical in the beginning because I really thought I liked this content creator with the large channel. And I believed. But I have to say, and I hope, content creator, and you know who you are if you should see this, I hope you're listening. I'm speaking to you right now as if I was your mother, or potentially your grandmother, which I might be able to do. Definitely could be your mother. Enough is enough. You are threatening lawsuits and have for a year now against other YouTube channels. You are threatening anybody that does not agree with you. I have to tell you, if you are the Christian you profess to be, you're not showing it. You are taking money from your subscribers to pay for something that I know for a fact some of these people can't afford, because I saw in a chat on your channel where a woman stated she gave up her cable for the month to send you monies. I'm sorry. I think that's grifting. Okay? You've shown some good deeds on your channel, and you have very strong supporters, and they're willing to support you in these endeavors. So instead of attacking your neighbor, whether this neighbor deserved it or not, at this point, you've taken it too far. Okay? You want to do good deeds? Everything I've seen you do that is of a positive nature, your channel supporters were the ones making it happen. You do not need to do this for content. And the sad part about it is, and this is why I'm on here, I followed you, and I, in the beginning, followed several other channels that were supporting you because I thought this was about First Amendment rights. Okay? And I stayed watching these channels until I started seeing things that were so unkind and basically not true. And I have lost respect, unfortunately, content creator, for you, but not just for you, these other two creators that, as far as I knew, were credible. One professes to be a journalist, and one professes to have a background in the mental health field. And what I've seen out of their videos, I don't see true journalism, and I certainly don't see appropriate conduct out of anybody that has a mental health background. So their credibility is now gone in my eyes, and I have no respect. I have no respect for you, and I have no respect for them. I don't think any of you care if you lose one subscriber or another, but the last thing you can do is go on your channel or have them go on their channels and attack smaller channels, accusing them of costing you subscribers. I've watched all your numbers grow. I've watched all your super chats grow. I've seen begging for money. And okay, you have a right to make a living that way. If I had a large number base, I would choose to make a living off of YouTube. But I will not do the devil's work for that money. And that's exactly what it is. So, my advice, okay, I've not seen anything harmful. I've not seen any small channel. They may disagree with you, they may point things out that are false that you've said. But that's the risk you take when you get on and say something that may be only a half truth. Okay? You cannot blame them. If you're not going to speak the truth, you better keep your story straight. But to involve other people in lawsuits that have nothing to do with it is foolish. The reason I brought up being on a jury trial is if you carry this federal lawsuit all the way to completion, there's a 50-50 chance that you can win. Okay. Now you've openly stated you only want to win. Your idea of a win is to bankrupt everybody else. Well, I don't see that a good use of the judicial system. I would think at this point you've used all this drama and negativity for money. And I realize that it's difficult to come up with new content to keep your subscribers engaged. But it doesn't have to be ugly. And you've stated you've lost a lot of money. Yet you turn around and you show us videos that you just purchased over $500,000 in property for a new business venture. So that's kind of an oxymoron, and I don't get it. Um, my advice would be drop this frivolous lawsuit. You're suing people that don't have the means. You can only squeeze blood out of a turnip, and you've proven your point. Okay? I would put my energy into my new business venture. You have very loyal subscribers that are willing to do anything for you, from sending you gummies, underwear, and actually verbally and maliciously attacking other people on your behalf. You've taken good Christians and turned them, in many cases, into what I would consider very ugly people. And I'm sure they are not, in their heart, ugly people. So I'm only going to say, as somebody that could be your grandmother or your mother, think about what you're doing. Think about the legacy you're leaving. And you've proven you have the ability to make money. And I think you have the ability with your new venture to do it. You don't have to resort to being vindictive and ugly and harming others. And I just want to say something. You know, I initially had the same opinion of your neighbor as you professed. And I hate myself for it. I was judging somebody based on appearance, based on possible living conditions. And the actuality of it is, I think she actually has more worth than I do financially. And that's a very unfair thing to do. That's being judgmental, okay, without even knowing the particulars. And you can judge me. You could look things up and misinterpret. No, but none of us really know unless you've walked in someone else's shoes. But I just want to say, think about this, content creator. You went into a small town, you made waves with city council and pointed things out. And okay, that was fine and dandy until you really started to attack someone. You know, what you could have done, and I'd still be watching you had you done this. You could have, you thought she was asking for a handout. You could have been the bigger man, the better Christian, and given her a hands up. And you realize you would have probably obtained even that many more subscribers if you had gone into this small town instead of attacking, whether it was a former mayor or council people or clerk, drug addicts, as you called them, and your neighbor. Had you gone in and taken your influence as a large YouTuber content creator that likes to brag on who he is, you could have said, I'm going to clean this town up in a positive way by attacking, but by leading. And to a certain degree, when you did Christmas in the Creek, it appeared that's what you were doing. But in doing so, you continued to attack a neighbor. I don't believe gifts should come with strings attached. But in this case, if had you done that and said to your neighbor, I have concerns about your child. I have concerns about the appearance of your property. I don't care for the language you use, or I don't care for this. I would like to help you, but there will be no alcohol on the premises. There will be no cussing and swearing, and you will live in what is suitable. You could have done that. And those strings, I think, would have been okay. She may not have accepted. And you might have thought you were wasting your money, but do you realize the charity that you could have given to another person and the end result would have been very positive, and you would have come out of this leaving a huge legacy, not only under your own name, but for your children, for everybody involved. Okay? And it would have given you great content. Instead, you chose to go the other way. So all I'm saying to you is remember, if you carry out this lawsuit, there's a 50-50 chance that they're going to decide for the defendant. And as instructed in the jury I sat on, what would a reasonable person, you know, a reasonable person isn't going to like some of the stuff they've seen and heard. And it's not because it's coming out of other channels or small creators' mouths. It's your own actions that are getting you, costing you subscribers. Okay? I hope you see the light. I hope that other channels that are parodying your narrative and choosing to financially benefit by mocking, body shaming, defaming others, I hope they stop and listen. Stop and think about this. Because the day's going to come when this is said and done. And they may have damaged their own reputations. And they may leave a legacy that if their kids look at this 10 years from today, they may be hugely embarrassed. How are they going to take it back? So, just like I'm on here today, my 9-year-old granddaughter, I don't want her to come on YouTube. And she already has a little mini YouTube channel. She knows what it's all about. These kids are a lot smarter than we think they are. I don't want her to go back and look at Grandma's channel and see some of the things that I did or said that I'm embarrassed about or ashamed of. And that's the advice I'm giving. Think before you speak. And if you profess to be a true Christian, it's not in the words out of your mouth, it's in the actions. You have the abilities to do far more good than harm. That's all I can tell you. Because remember, we have a president in the United States right now who has been convicted by his peers in more than one court of law. Okay? And yet he got reelected. You could very easily be found wrong. So think about this. Do you want to continue to make an attorney wealthy? You've already done that. I'm sure that you've provided your attorney with more income than he would have made Levy County in the last 2 years. You may be his only client because you are financially rewarding him. And this is not about First Amendment anymore. This is turned into content and an ugly vendetta, or so it appears. And I really believe I may not be the only person that feels this way. And if you're willing to take that chance in a court of law, so be it. Just remember there's a lot at stake here. And I hope that whatever wealth this is bringing you, if you don't change your ways, you have the opportunity before God calls you home to repent. And having lost my late husband due to passing in his sleep, and having lost my only child due to her passing in her sleep, none of us know. So instead of saying you're being fun employed, go back to being fun employed because you've become hate employed. You have the abilities, you've got the following. You don't need to make your money off of shaming, belittling, attacking others. I think you have the business acumen to do it in an honest, kind way. So I guess I'm pleading to you, take a look in the mirror, and is this really who you want to be? So, with that being said, folks, I hope you don't take this as a lecture. I know there's people on here that may see this that are huge followers, and I probably will be open for attack. Go ahead. I don't care. I only have 600 something subscribers. If all of you check out, that's fine too. Okay? This is very important to me. We have enough hate in this world that we don't need to perpetuate it. And I don't know if I would ever want to make another YouTube video again because I'm disappointed in YouTube that they allow some of the stuff they've been allowing. I realize it's big business, but it saddens me. Okay. So, with that being said, I hope those of you that are living in the north with terrible weather and those of us in the south, I hope we can all stay warm and safe. And I hope I've given somebody something to ponder about. Okay. In the interim, stay blessed and take care. Thanks for listening.